classes, right? And the second function, as you can say, I was telling you the basic example of the gmail.com website. Like if we go to the Gmail, you open Gmail and go there, and then you want to enter the username into this text field, and you want to run the script in all the three browsers. Then how will you do that, right? So let us just now do that. Okay, say for example I want to run the Gmail script in all the three browsers, right? So I'll just create one new class. Say I add a Gmail class. Okay, now in this I will just declare sorry, I'll just declare one variable, browser is equal to, say, Mozilla, right? So now I have declared one variable browser, which is equated to Mozilla. Now over here you can type, you can give your own browser as well. You can change it to Chrome or the IE browser according to your requirement. Okay, so over here you can just give the name of the browser in which you want to run your script on, right? So I have just now kept this Mozilla browser, this browser, in a string variable. Later on we will be actually reading this from the Excel file. As we will be proceeding with the course, we will be reading this parameter, this browser parameter, from the external file. That would be the Excel file that we will be working on, right? And then we can run through that Excel file also, right? So how will we do that? We will just be doing that as well in the coming classes, right? So now what I have just declared one string variable, and now if suppose like we want to enter the username into this text field, right? So what all we will do is that we can simply write an if statement over here, that if just a minute, I'll just declare it as public. Uh-oh. Okay, so now I'll just write the code over here, and I have made one function, go to Gmail, right? So what we want to do, I can simply write over here that if browser is equal to Mozilla, then you can simply write over here that open the Firefox driver, right? So we'll create the object of the Firefox driver class. I do control plus dot and add the reference to this, that is openqa.selenium.firefox is equal to new Firefox driver, right? So if the browser is equal to Mozilla, then you would open the Firefox driver, right? Or else if it is equal to Chrome, then you'll open the Chrome browser. Right, and else you would open the Internet Explorer driver. Okay, so we have over now just checked the browsers that according to the browsers we have opened the respective browsers, right? Now next what we want to do, we want to take the URL of the browser to the gmail.com website. Okay, so now how will you go to the particular URL? Then again, inside each and every if statement you have to declare the URL as well. That is, if the browser is equal to Firefox browser, then you will take this to the URL is equal to the gmail.com. Okay, and similarly for the Chrome browser as well, if the Chrome browser is open, then you would take the URL to the gmail.com website, right? And similarly for the Internet Explorer driver as well. Okay, and same next what we want to do after going to the gmail.com website, we want to enter into this text field, right? So again, for each and every browser we have to write the we have to write the code for extracting this email field in each and every if statement for each and every browser, right? So that means writing the same script again and again inside every if statement. Okay, the same set of lines for every browser we have to write in each if statement, right? So this problem is solved by interfaces. Okay, so interfaces that instead of writing the same set of lines again and again inside every if statement, what we do is that we will make use of the interfaces over here. Okay, so how we will do that, I'll just tell you right now. Okay, so I'll just create one new class over here. Firstly, I'll just explain you with the basic example of the phone interface that we were taking on, right? So I have added one class test phone, right? So did you understand the problem? The problem is that we want to open the browser, right? We want to open the browser of our need and only work on that browser and then make the code in a more efficient way, right? As for example, you can say that I want to open the Firefox browser and only I want to work only on that browser itself, and all the operations should be done for that particular browser only, right? So what we will do is now we have created the new class that is the test phone, right? And in just a minute. Okay, so we have one phone interfaces and two phone interface and two classes, that is the iPhone class and the Nexus class that is implementing the phone interface, right? So now in the test phone class, I'll just make one main function over here. And I'll just comment out this main function of the program.cs file. Okay, so inside this main function of the test phone class, what I will do is that I will create the object of the phone interface, right? So how will you create the object of the phone interface is that you have phone p is equal to new phone, right? So now over here you will see that it is giving you an error stating that cannot create an instance of the abstract class or interface, that is the phone interface. Okay, so the rule number 1 is that you cannot create the object of an interface. The object of an interface cannot be created, as we all know that interface is nothing, it is just the skeleton. As you can see over here also, that inside the phone interface we haven't done anything. we haven't declared, we haven't implemented the functions and all inside the interface. We have just declared the functions. Okay, so creating the object of the phone interface, you will not achieve anything by creating the object of the phone interface. There is nothing to do with the while creating the object of the phone interface. Okay, so what you can do is that you can simply, you will create the object of the implementing classes. Will not create the object of the interface, we will create the object of the implementing classes that implement the phone interface. That is, we have the Nexus and the iPhone class that are implementing the phone interface, right? So we will create the object of those classes. Say as if as for example, we have the Nexus class with us, right? So we can create the object of the Nexus class, and similarly the iPhone class. Okay, and then you can simply access the methods of both the classes as well. Say for example, in the iPhone class we have the call function, right? So you can simply call the functions of the interface of the classes as well. Then we have the text function inside the iPhone class, right? And similarly for the Nexus also, you can call the functions that are being declared inside, that are being implemented inside the classes. And then we have the text function as well. Okay, so now when I run my code, just a minute. Oh, I haven't written the console.read key, so it is not displaying us the output. Okay, I'll still just write. Right, so here you see that it prints Nexus text, Nexus calling, then iPhone calling and iPhone text. Okay, so this is how you can just call, you can just create the object of the implementing classes. Will not create the object of the interface. Right, now suppose we have a unique feature in the Nexus class, right? Say we have one more feature in the Nexus phone, that is say I create one function, that is Google features. Okay, and over here you can simply write okay. Now this function is there inside the Nexus class only, it's not there inside the iPhone class or an interface, the phone interface. Okay, so it is just there inside the Nexus class only, that is the Google features, the unique functionality which is there inside the Nexus phone only. Okay, so what we will do is that while calling the functions in the main function of the test phone class, we can simply call this function from the Nexus class. That is, if I call the Nexus class, then you will see that the Google features function is easily accessible in the Nexus class, right? But not inside the iPhone class. If I say suppose try to access the Google features function from the iPhone class, then you will not be able to access that Google features function, since it is not there inside the iPhone class, right? So it's there inside the Nexus class only. We have just declared implemented, we have just defined this Google feature function only inside the Nexus class. Okay, so it will be only accessible from the Nexus class only, not with the iPhone class or the interface. Okay, now one more property of the interface is that you can, as you can see that we have created the object of the classes, not the interface, right? And we have created the object of the classes like this, that is we called in the class and then created the object of the class, the respective class, iPhone and the Nexus class, right? Now one more method how you can create the object of the interface class is that I write, we have the phone interface with us, that is the phone interface is phone P is equal to new nexus. Okay, so with this also you can create the object of the respective classes as well. That is what we are doing over here is that we have interface reference is equal to the object of the implementing classes. Right, this is the interface, this is, as I told you, that this is not the object, it is the reference, object reference. So P is pointing towards the object of the nexus class, right? So as we know that phone is an interface and nexus is the implementing class, and we have created the object of the implementing class, that is the nexus class, right? So this is also how you can create the object of the classes, like this also you can create, and with this one more method is like this only, this also you can create the object of the nexus class. Okay, so as we know that this is the nexus class, this is the nexus class, right? And as just a minute. Okay, so this P is now is pointing towards the object of the nexus class. Okay, and this P is the reference, it is the reference of the interfaces, it is not the object, it is the reference of the interface which is pointing towards the nexus class. Okay, so
Okay,
now
I have a
yes,
question.
yes,
So, what you have done is you have taken the reference phone
of
P and you are assigning the object of the implementing class.
yes.
So, can the reference of the say for the interface P, can I assign any other class which has not implemented
Mm,
the interface?
no, only the class which is implementing the interface can only be declared like this, that we can create the object of those classes like this also. Like similarly we have the iPhone class as well, which is implementing the phone interface, right? So we can also create the object of the iPhone class like this also.
Okay, so only the class which is implementing the interface, that
Can
class object you can assign to the reference interface.
yes, you're right.
Okay.
Okay, so now what is
So
the
in this,
yes.
so in this case, I can invoke the methods which are there inside the interface as well as the methods which are specific to that class.
Yes.
Like for
Like the Google features, which is unique to this Nexus class, that
okay,
can also be accessible, right? So now, what is the difference between creating this, creating the object of the Nexus class like this, and creating the object of the Nexus class like this? Okay, so as you can see that we can create the object of the nexus class in two ways, like this also and like this also. So what will be the difference, what is the difference between both these methods? Okay, so the difference is that with this first method we can call all the functions of the nexus class, right? As you can see that when we are creating the object of the nexus class, like in this way we can call all the functions of the nexus class which are there inside the nexus class, right? But when we are creating the object of the nexus class like this, that is with the help of the interface, then you cannot call the Google feature function which is there inside the nexus class. Okay, so here you will see that it gives you an error, right? Right, so this is what is the functionality. Like over here we are creating the object of the nexus class with the by passing the reference of the interface, right? And inside the interface we do not have the Google features function, right? So Google features function is not accessible with this nexus object when we are creating the object of the nexus class like this. But when you are creating the object of the nexus class with the specific class only, then all the features will be accessible.
So what is the advantage of doing with the second method? I mean,
Yeah,
second way.
I'm telling you that only. Okay, so now but what is the advantage, like as you asked? Okay, so the advantage is that I'll just tell you, just a minute. Okay, now since with this method we are able to access less number of functions, as we can see, right? Now in this like you can simply we have this like we have created the object of the iPhone class as well with this phone interface, right? So similarly you can call the functions of the iPhone class which are there inside the iPhone class, right? That is the p1 call and the text function, right? Now this p1 can also point as of now this p1 is pointing towards the iPhone class, right? This p1 can also point towards the nexus class as well. Okay, like what I'm trying to say is that, say I have p1 is equal to new nexus. Okay, so the same object reference is pointing towards the two classes, that is the iPhone class and the nexus class. Okay, so you can say that the same object, the same p1 can be made to point towards any class. Okay, that is the iPhone or the nexus class or any other class that you are interested in. So it's completely your choice that how you want to create your object.
So in case when you call p1.call, so
Yes,
it will be calling the function of iPhone or Nexus.
it will be calling both the functions. I'll just run the code. I'll just comment out this. So it's calling nexus calling and nexus test. The later class that we have that we are declaring, it will call the functions of that class.
So it means that reference is changed, right? It is
Yeah,
P1 is not pointing to the iPhone. So moment you say P1 is equal to new Nexus,
yes,
then P1 will only able to invoke the methods which are there in Nexus. That is
nexus
solver,
nexus class,
not
yeah.
for iPhone, right?
Yeah. So it's
Okay.
better if you it would be better if you create the object like this only. Yeah, you create separate reference for both the classes, like phone p is equal to new nexus, one separate reference for the nexus class and another one for the iPhone class. Okay, so or else you can, like, this is the one method, or you can simply say that we as, and in that case also it will point towards one class only, that is, if I say phone, I just declare the reference of the phone interface, I'll just declare it to null for the time being, that it is not pointing towards, not pointing anywhere, right? And then I say that this reference is pointing towards the iPhone class, and this the same reference is pointing towards the nexus class. Okay, so now I haven't called anything. Okay, so this is like I just created the reference of the phone interface and equated it to null, that is, it is not pointing anywhere. And then you can call, you can just uh, declare, you can just refer that object reference to both the implementing classes, that is the iPhone and the nexus class. Okay, so now in the Gmail example that we were discussing, what we want is that we want to run the script in all the three browsers, right? So we have written the if statement, and then again inside each and every if statement we are writing the same set of lines, right? If we want to next go to the URL, then for each and every browser we have written the URL, and then similarly for the username also we will be doing the same for each inside each and every if statement, right? So now what we can do is that we can simply remove this if statement, can remove the if code, right? So now what we will do is that, as we know that we have the WebDriver as an interface, the WebDriver is an interface, and all the driver classes are implementing the WebDriver interface. Okay, I'll just, so I do control plus dot, and we will include the reference to it, that is openqt.selenium, right? So now I create the object of the WebDriver class. Okay, so initially I'll just equate it to null. Okay, and then you can simply write over here that you can simply write the if statement that if the browser is equal to Mozilla, then driver would be equal to new Firefox driver. Okay, else if it equals the Chrome, then driver would be equal to the Chrome driver. Else it would be equal to the Internet Explorer driver, would be equal to the Internet Explorer driver. Okay, so now we have initialized the respective browsers. Firstly, what we know, as we know that WebDriver is an interface, okay, and all the implementing classes, that all the driver classes are implementing this WebDriver interface. So what we can do is that we simply created the reference of this WebDriver interface, and I just equated it to null for that initially, and then you are checking inside each and every if statement that if the browser is equal to Mozilla, then this driver would be equal to the Firefox driver. Else if it is equal to Chrome, then it would be equal to the Chrome driver. Else it would be equal to the Internet Explorer driver. Okay, and then at the end you can simply give the URL. You can simply write that driver dot URL is equal to the, we want to take it to the gmail.com website. Okay, so as we all know that all the implementing all the driver classes, this Firefox driver, Chrome driver, Internet Explorer driver, all these classes have the same function of URL, right? So all of these classes will now be taken to this gmail.com website one by one. Okay, so now let me just run the code. I'll just declare it, I'll just change this function to the main function. Okay, so that I'll just show you the result. And okay, so now I'll just add the path to the exe file. Just a minute, it's there inside the And similarly I'll add the Internet Explorer's exe file as well, that is this file. Okay, so now when I run my code, so you see that it opens the Firefox browser, and then it takes you to the gmail.com website, right? And over here, as of now, since we have equated this browser to the Mozilla, and if I say suppose change this browser to the Chrome, right? And now when I run my code, so it will open the Chrome browser now, right? So you can change it according to your requirement, that browser variable you want to run your script on. Okay, so it opens the Chrome browser and takes you to the gmail.com website, right? So similarly, after going to the website, we can simply extract this text name field, and can simply write the code to enter the username over here, right? And similarly, you can print the title of the web page as well. That is, if you want to print the title of the web page, you can simply write driver dot title. Okay, so now when I run my code, okay, so it opens the gmail.com website, and okay, we haven't written the console.readkey, so it's not displaying us the output. I'll run it once again. Okay, so you see that it prints the title of the website also, that is the Gmail, right? So this is how you can just work with your script. That is, our requirement was that we want to run the same script, that is opening the browser, taking to the gmail.com website, and then entering the username, and we want to run this in all the three browsers, right? So this is how you can do. Okay, since the WebDriver is an interface, instead of declaring the object of each and every driver class inside each and every if statement, what we did was that we simply make use of the interface, that is the WebDriver interface. We just created the reference of the WebDriver interface, and according to our browser, we are creating the object of each and every driver class. Right, so did you understand this? Any doubts, any questions you want to ask?
No, I'm good. Understood.
Okay. Okay, so now we are done with the interface, the topic of interface. Now let's move towards the object identification in Selenium, that is how you can identify the objects. Okay, so now as we know that Selenium works on the page source. Okay, so in the website, as for example, if I consider the page source of this gmail.com website, just a minute, I'll just take another example. Say if I go to timesofindia.com, right? So we have this timesofindia.com website, and if I look into the page source of this website, so over here you see that in the web page there are tags and the attributes. Okay, so as you can see that this div is a tag, and this xmlns and this id are the attributes inside the div class, right? Similarly, we have this for the anchor tag as well. This anchor a is a tag, and pg, title, href, these are all the attributes of the anchor tag, right? So in each and every web page you have, there are the tags and the attributes, and we have tags under tags as well. Okay, so with the help of the tags and the attributes only, we will be identifying the objects in Selenium. Okay, so as we know that Selenium only works on the page source, and the page source remains same across all the browsers. That is the way it is looking inside the, it's there inside the Firefox browser, and in the Chrome browser it would be same. The page source would be same in all the three browsers. It would not differ in all the browsers, right? So that is the reason that Selenium supports all the browsers, since the page source remains same across all the browsers. Okay, so now we'll see that how to identify the objects, what techniques we will be using in order to identify the objects. Okay, so these are known as the locator strategies, the techniques that we will be using in order to identify the objects. Okay, so there are various locator strategies used in Selenium. Okay, so if we go to the seleniumhq.org website, if we go to the documentation of C Sharp, okay, inside this you have a by class which holds all the locator strategies. Okay, that is, you can identify the objects with the help of class name, with the help of css selector, okay, with the help of id, link text, name, partial link text, tag name, xpath. Okay, so these are all the locator strategies which we will be using in order to identify the objects. Okay, so what we will do is that I'll just make one new Excel file, that is objects. Okay, so now as I told you that if we look into this website, timesofindia.com website, over here, as I told you that Selenium works on the page source, right? So you need to identify the tags corresponding to what you see on the web page. Okay, so technically what you see all are the objects. This image is an object, this link is an object, right? These all images, these links, hyperlinks, link text, everything that you see on a website are all the objects. Okay, so in automation everything is an object, right? These, the buttons, the every tag, everything is an object, right? So what we will do is that, like, over here, say we have one field for the objects. Okay, then we have the tag name, mandatory attributes, then we have the optional attributes. Okay, so now what all different types of objects are there, what that which you can see on a website, right? Say for example we have text field, right? Then we have buttons, Okay, then we have the radio buttons, right? Then we have the checkbox. Okay, and then we have the links on the web page, right? Then we have image as well, and or else what you can say. Then we have a drop down as well. Okay, so these are all the objects that you can see on each and every website, the common objects that we can see daily, right? So okay, so these are all the objects, and corresponding to each and every object, the tag name corresponding to the text field is the input tag, right? So for each and every text field, you have the input tag. Similarly, for the button also we have the input tag, right? And then for the radio button also we have the input tag. For the link also, or okay, we have the checkbox as well. Then for the checkbox also we have the input tag, right? Now for a link tag, you do not have the tag name as input. What you for the links, what we have, as I told you, that we have the anchor tag for the link, for the link object, right? So for the link we have the anchor tag, right? And then for the image, as if we look into this page, so this times of india dot com, if we oh, for the image we have the, just a minute, we have the img tag, right? So over here you can see that this is an image which has the img tag, right? So for the image we have the img tag, right? And then for the drop down we have the select tag, right? So now okay, so for the now the mandatory attributes, the attributes which are necessary for each and every object, right? So for the text field, the mandatory attribute is the type is equal to text. Okay, so as for example, if we look into the gmail.com website, this is the text field, right? And if we inspect this element, you will see that it has the input tag, and the mandatory field is over here. You can see that its type is equal to the particular text that each and every that the text field will be having. Okay, so for the text field we have the type is equal to text attribute, the mandatory attribute, right? And then for the button we have type is equal to submit, right? And then for the radio button we have type is equal to a radio. Okay,
Today I'm sitting.
okay, and then for the checkbox we have type is equal to checkbox. Okay, and then for the link tag, for the anchor tag, link attribute, link object, we have the mandatory attribute as href. Okay, so for each and every link you will be having the href attribute, which is mandatory for each and every link, right? Say suppose you have this link tag, Okay, as you can see that this is an anchor tag, and the mandatory attribute is the link, which will give you the link, the location where you want your link to point towards. Okay, so it gives you the path of the URL where this link will take you to, will take you towards, which will point towards the URL which you want to take to. Okay, and similarly for the image we have the attribute as the src attribute. Okay, which will load the image actually. So as you can see that, just a minute. Right, so this is an image, and then we have the attribute corresponding to the image as the src. So this will actually load the image for you. This URL will load the image, right? If we particularly, okay, so this is what we have for the image. We have the src attribute, right? And then, okay, and then the optional attributes means it might or might not be present. It's not necessary. Mandatory attributes, these has to be present for each and every object, but the optional attributes means they cannot, they might or might be present. It's not necessary that these have to be present, right? So for example, for the text field, the optional attributes are the id, then we have the name, and then the class. Okay, similarly for the uh, button also we have the id, name, and the class. Then for the radio buttons also, for the checkbox also, right? So these are all for each and every object we have these as the optional attributes, right? Say if, as over here also you can see that for the text field you can see that we have the
Today I'm sitting.
this name attribute, then this. Okay, and then for the button also you can see that we have this name attribute, we have this class attribute as well, but do not have the id or the class inside for the text field attribute, right? So these are the optional attributes which might or might not be present for each and every object. Okay, so did you understand?
Yeah, I'm able to understand.
Okay, so these are some of the objects which we have, which we will be considering, the common objects which we will be doing on, right? So other than this we also have the web tables with us, right? And then we have the frames also, and then we have the javascript pop-ups apps as well. Okay, so these objects are also there, and with these also we will be working on in this syllabus. As you can see that we have the pop-up handling as well, then we have the drop down or frame handling as well, javascript alerts, action classes. So these are all the objects that we will be working on. Web tables also we will be working on inside a syllabus. Okay, so these are just the common objects that we will be considering we will be looking towards in each and every website. Okay, so right now in order to work with these attributes, what you need to do is that you need to install a plugin inside the Firefox, that is known as the Firebug, in order to inspect these elements on the web page, these text fields, these buttons, link tags, images, drop downs. Okay, so in order to work with these objects you need to install a plugin inside the Firefox, which is known as the Firebug. Okay, so what we will do is that you can simply install it, search for Firebug. and we can install the Firebug. Okay, so here you see that this icon coming up, which denotes which is the icon for the Firebug, right? So if suppose we want to inspect this text field, so I'll just open this Firebug. You select on this arrow, and then when you hover your arrow towards this text field, so it gives you the all the details of this text field, this username field. That is, it is an input tag with id equal to email, type, spell check, value. Okay, so these are all the attributes with this very username text field. Okay, so we will be actually identifying all the objects with the help of this Firebug in the Firefox. Okay, so you just need to install this plugin in order to identify your object in the Firefox. Right, now suppose if we go to this gmail.com website, and if I want to enter the username into this text field, right? So what you can do is that you can inspect this username field, you can get the source code of this user id field, right? So as you see that as you have seen that I just extracted this username field, which you can see is an input tag which whose id is equal to this, type, this, autofocus, spell check, value. These are all the attributes for the username field. Okay, so uh, okay, but as over here you can see that in the excel sheet, as I told you that for the text field, the mandatory attribute, as I told you is that the type is equal to text for the text field. But over here in the website, for the email field, over here you can see that its type is being written, it is being equated to email, but generally we have type is equal to text only. Okay, for but in some cases you might see some different value for the text field, but generally we have for the text field the mandatory attribute, the types attribute is equated to text only. Okay, but over here we have the email as the value for the type attribute. Okay, and similarly for the this next is an button, and over here you can also see that type is equal to submit is there. Okay, then we have the it is also an input tag whose id, class, name, and all value, and all these are all the attributes which are defined for this object. Okay, so over here as for the text field, you can see that we have the id and name as only the attributes, and for the button, for this next button, we have all the id, class, and name all are being written, right? So as I told you that these are all the optional attributes which might or might not be present in each and every object. Okay, so but it uniquely identifies the object id, but id and name can uniquely identify your object but not the class. Okay, since it would this id and name would be present in almost all the objects. Okay, so it becomes easy to identify the objects with id and name but not the class, right? So what we will do is that we will use the combination of the tag name, mandatory attributes, and optional attributes in order to identify the objects. Okay, so how we will be identifying the objects will continue tomorrow, right?